Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this NYU SPS alumni conversation. I'm Sarah Gibbs, and I graduated from NYU SPS's Center for Global Affairs just about 2 weeks ago. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Jennifer Landig, though you may know her as Jen Marie, a 2010 NYU SPS graduate. Jennifer is now the Chief of Staff at Tides Foundation. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Sarah.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us today. So you're a graduate of the SPS Center for Global Affairs as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your decision to join that program?
Yeah, and thanks again for having me. It's really a delight to be here. And I want to answer this question on a big picture and a detailed level. So on a big picture level, my decision to join the program was part of my concerns and exploration about voice, space, and impact. Having a voice is crucial. It's central to human rights. And when we consider the history of women's lack of rights, it is a history of breaking silence. And on a personal level, I've been on a journey for years to step into my independent, full voice. And understanding and upholding our responsibility to one another is part of the space of the larger whole. We create space when we break barriers and divisions of difference, using empathy, care, and action as instruments for space making and community building. So this question of space for me is, how are we going to live together? And I wanted to pursue studies and a career in a way that could hopefully produce a positive impact on how we live together. And on a detailed level, and a quick summary, my background was in business. I grew up in my family's small business and got my undergraduate degree at UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business. I pursued a career in international education in Spain, France, and then in San Francisco. I found business very creative. I enjoyed creating processes and strategies from scratch, implementing them and iterating, and trying to incorporate that human design element with what I was creating, ensuring the people impacted were at the center. And after some years working in international education, I felt like I was hitting glass ceilings. And at the same time, I always wanted to go back to school because I am a nerd and actually love school. And a master's seemed like a good way to start cracking that glass ceiling, while also stepping into my voice and space. And as the glass ceilings show, both of which are so often denied to women. So I wanted to apply my business functional expertise in the international affairs arena. And I only applied to schools in California and New York because I'm a native Californian and that is my heart. And at the same time, I'd always been my dream to live in New York City. So I ultimately chose the Center for Global Affairs at NYU because I felt like I could achieve all my dreams there.
Wonderful. I know I too was very selective in choosing schools, and NYU is such a great place, especially when you're looking at international issues, because we are, the city of the UN and so many other organizations. So you had some professional experience prior to attending the program. Can you tell me a little bit about those experiences and the experiences you had while in the program that either solidified the path you thought you were on or maybe shifted it a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, I had been working in international education. And my regional concentration all through undergrad and further as I started working was South America, with a particular focus on Peru and Mexico. I grew up in Southern California, which most people know has a huge Latinx community. My grandmother's from Mexico. I studied Spanish for years. I studied abroad in Mexico. And I had spent a lot of time in Brazil for work. So I thought, okay, here I go into CGA. I'm going to pursue international education in South America. But life always has other ideas. I took an international development class that focused on women's role in economic development, and it literally blew me away. Here was empirical evidence about voice, space, and impact, and the positive difference women were making on the economy, community, and world. So I decided to change to this concentration. Then between my first and second year of grad school, I did a consultancy in Istanbul. And I absolutely fell in love. And not only did the history and culture of this geographically unique country completely capture me, but the question of women's role in society was in this really fascinating place due to the European Union's pull on Turkey. So I came back from Istanbul and told my thesis advisor that I was changing my regional concentration to Turkey. And she asked me, do you speak Turkish? And I said, no. And she said, okay, well, let's go. And so with her support and a lot of hustling on my part, I went back to Turkey, traveled the country, writing about women's economic empowerment projects funded by the EU. And my time in Turkey was incredible. I've so many stories, but just a few. Was one small town near Konya. The mayor presented me with gifts and created an entire town celebration. In the eastern Anatolia region of Adıyaman, I was interviewed by local news. And in the southeast region, I had the opportunity to have a traditional dinner with a Kurdish family. And I would never have had these experiences if it wasn't for NYU. So through this work on my thesis, looking at the structural, economic, and social barriers women faced, that led me to the job that I ultimately took in California at Girls Leadership.
It is amazing how much of your experience kind of resounds with other stories I've heard from people who have attended NYU and especially the Center for Global Affairs. I too entered with a specific idea of what I would be studying. I then got a consultancy with an organization in Somalia, and that also like drastically shifted what I did for my final. I did a capstone instead of a thesis, but it's amazing how that like continues to be a core pillar of the program. So while you're at the program, looking back, are there any things that really stand out to you as something that you really enjoyed, or even something that you wish you had participated in but weren't able to during your time at NYU?
Yeah, so there really actually wasn't anything that I wasn't able to participate in. So I'm very thankful. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that my time at Center for Global Affairs was one of the best times of my life. The community, the studies, the travel. It was one of my lifelong dreams to visit Cuba, and NYU at the time was one of the only handful of universities that had special visas to study in Cuba. So once in Cuba, I was fulfilling a lifelong dream, and there were so many exceptional experiences, but one that will always stand out was the way NYU set up the program, having opportunities to take classes with Cuban students and professors and hear their perspectives firsthand was pretty remarkable. And again, another opportunity I wouldn't have had unless I was at CGA. And as you mentioned earlier, one of the reasons to be in New York is to be near the United Nations. And one of my dreams was to try working there. And I interned there in my first year of grad school. And then related to my studies, this was the first time in my life that I dove deeply into the study of NGOs. Going to business school as an undergraduate in the early 2000s, the majority of my classmates pursued careers in investment banking, tax, audit, and honestly, I was a bit of a black sheep. And also at the time, I just didn't have the vocabulary to know that I wanted to work in an NGO and make a social impact. So I had to figure that out on my own, and NYU helped me with that so much. And overall, I learned an incredible amount. I have lifelong friends now that I made in the program, and I have to admit that one of my lifelong friends is New York City itself. Every day I would leave my apartment and say, what new adventure is going to happen today? And without fail, there was always something. And now I count New York as a second home for me.
Great to hear. I am sure New York misses you greatly. It definitely gets a special place in a lot of our hearts. So it's been 10 years since you graduated. What has that time looked like, and how have you built upon your experiences at NYU? You talked a little bit about kind of opening the door for you on NGO work, but if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, so right after I graduated, I consulted at the UNFPA, which is the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency. And it was a great experience. And at the same time, as many Center for Global Affairs students know, excuse me, it's really difficult to get a permanent contract at the UN. So throughout my consultancy, I kept looking for other jobs. And there was this crazy inflection point where I had 3 opportunities at the same time in New York, DC, and San Francisco. And I knew I probably had a couple more years of New York winters in me. And at the same time, I thought, well, maybe I'd want to try a new city and try DC. But at the end of the debate, you know, San Francisco, again, has my heart. I knew I'd eventually want to be there anyway. So I thought I might as well go now. And as I also said earlier, Girls Leadership's mission really resonated with my thesis work. And so at Girls Leadership, I was there for almost 5 years. They equip girls with skills to exercise the power of their voice. And they put social and emotional learning at the foundation of all of their leadership development. And ultimately, they're building a pipeline of women leaders. And I was the director of operations and finance. So I had an amazing time helping build the foundation, helping build structure to really help this organization keep thriving. And now it's still out there. They're pivoting to online programs given the current state of the world, but still providing those really important resources so girls know who they are, what they believe, and are able to express their beliefs. But after about 5 years there, I decided I was ready for a new challenge. So I kind of went in the opposite direction by moving to Tides. You know, startup versus Tides has been around for over 40 years. Small startup budget versus Tides, we're an over $700 million organization. And so I wanted to try this new experience, and their mission really resonates with me as well. Tides is working to accelerate the pace of social change. They're working for a world of shared prosperity and social justice, founded on equality and human rights, sustainable environment, healthy individuals and communities, and quality education. And we work with innovative partners, and we're really trying to solve society's toughest problems. And in order to do that, we have to take a really collaborative, bold approach to the work. And my role at Tides is Chief of Staff. And what that means is that I'm managing our board of directors, I'm managing our executive team, and I'm managing our CEO's external relations and also supporting her and achieving her goals. I love it there. As I said, I've been there almost 5 years. I feel really fortunate, especially to be there in these times. And I look forward to being there much longer. And I should also mention, we're always hiring. So if you're someone listening to this and looking for a job, check out our website. And over the past 10 years, I've also been working on writing and dancing and photography. I just published my first article on Medium. So if you want to check that out, you can find that link in my Instagram profile. I'm flamenco dancing. I recently fulfilled a lifelong dream of studying flamenco in Sevilla. And I'm always pursuing photography, which you can also see on my Instagram account.
Yeah, and for everybody listening, our social media handles will be shared when this goes live. That such an array of pastimes and experiences, and kind of having the balanced experience of the smaller startup and the bigger foundation. And a fun fact, the organization that I consulted with in Somalia had actually been funded by Tides Foundation for one of their projects, and they were a very locally led, grassroots level peace building organization, having programs kind of across the board addressing the needs of the Somali people. So it's a small world and a very big world, I'm finding, especially within the SPS and CGA alum. So you've mentioned Tides Foundation is always hiring. But do you have any advice on how to stay engaged with the SPA or SPS or CGA communities as an alum? Any tips or favorite things that you've experienced as an alum?
Yeah, and before I answer that question, I just want to say thank you for sharing that story. I'm always continually impressed and surprised and happy when I meet people around the world that have a connection to Tides, so that's great to hear. So for advice, one of the things I did when I moved to San Francisco is I joined the NYU alumni group in my city. So I recommend, in your city, looking and seeing if there's an alumni group, and if there's not, you could start one. And pre-COVID, we would meet for happy hours or go on a walk or various events. So hopefully we'll be able to return to that soon. And I also recommend joining the Violet Network. This is an online global platform where we all as alum can stay connected. It has a mentor program as well to connect alumni and students with mentors. And NYU also has resources to help in these difficult times. They have a wellness exchange, they have the Office of Global Inclusion, and those continue to plan programs and events. So I encourage everyone listening to check those out as well.
And I know for recent graduates, we still have access to the Wasserman Center and some of those other resources to help us as we are trying to navigate the job search in this very unusual and unique time period. So that's about all of our questions, but is there anything else you'd like to share with either me or other alumni or even prospective or current students who are in CGA or considering it or SPS?
Yeah, well, first I want to just say, if you're listening, feel free to contact me through the Violet Network or through Instagram or LinkedIn. I have been helped so much in my journey, and so I am always more than happy to help others. I also want to congratulate all the recent grads and wish the best to everyone, to all alum and anyone listening. And the last and probably, the most important thing I would like to share is that I want to extend my solidarity to everyone in the community right now who are taking part in the mass protests and standing up in the face of violent repression. Throughout this chat today, I've been speaking about voice, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention actively using our voices to be explicitly anti-racist and affirm that Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
I would absolutely like to echo Jennifer's sentiments on kind of the struggles we are seeing right now in America and now globally as we are trying to bring about a massive change in how our society works. A lot of my past studies have been on peace building and how to change systemic issues within societies that lead to conflict. And that is, we need peace building in America too. So just again, solidarity with everybody. Black lives do matter. And we need, as an NYU, SPS, CGA community to come together and really do the work to try to bring about revolution. So thank you so much all for joining us. We hope that you find ways to stay involved and engaged with NYU, with SPS, with CGA, with all of the groups we are all a part of. Please find us on social media, reach out to us on our social media accounts via LinkedIn, the Violet Network. Everybody should join. It's going to be a great resource for all alumni. And thank you, Sarah, so much for joining us. Thank you, Jennifer, for everything.
Thanks, Sarah. Take care.
You too.